where business insight meets startup innovation. And now, your host, the big bad Brian Sparks and Lisa Helfrich.
All right, Brian. Wait, after last week, I didn't think you could step it up a notch, but you definitely did it.
Always trying to impress, Brian.
We
Always.
are pushing the envelope of our game here. Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, everybody, on Pirate Cat Radio, KPCR 92.9 FM in Los Gatos and beyond. And when I say beyond, I mean beyond. Today, we are talking to some guests from Canada today. But what you're about to hear is edited for radio. I'm your host, Brian Sparks. And with me is my co-host, Lisa Helfrich. Lisa, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Doing well. Summertime.
And you brought in,
good.
yeah. Well, I don't know about that in Canada. Is it hot up there? Because I know today in the Bay Area, everybody's inside with their ACs full blast. I got my Hawaiian shirt on, so I'm trying to play the part. But I'm excited about today. You brought in some rock stars that we're going to talk to in a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Calgary, where I'm from, Canada, is a very vibrant and entrepreneurial city. And so you'll hear from some really interesting entrepreneurs that I've known for some time.
Yeah. And so we'll talk to Shelley and Mercedes in a second. You'll give your intro. In the studio with me is my good friend, Naveen.
Hello.
Man, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love the show and I love the format in particular. I think it's sensational. I'm the host, of course, but yes, I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you.
The check's in the mail. Thanks for saying
exactly.
that.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, so those listening today get to know you a little bit better. Give a quick intro about yourself and what it is that you're doing in the startup ecosystem, because you wear many hats.
No, I do. I've kind of lived in a lot of places and done a lot of things, but here I have a flexible workspace business called Werqwise and a technology business on the side of that called Apiro. And basically, when we saw kind of flexible workspace, we looked at it and said, look, it's just a compromise for everyone who uses it. If you go to a WeWork or an Industrious, you're going to go, I want this, and they're not going to be able to give you this. They'll say, I've got that, and I've got that, right? But they haven't got exactly what you wanted. So for us, it was about making flexible workspace flexible. So we've developed a software, hardware platform that allows you to move walls, data, power, lighting. And this is the bit that really, really excites me, because you can do that with no construction waste and no demolition. So there's so much, like real estate generally is a sleeper. When we're all talking about it, sleeper in the environmental conversation, like when we're all talking about plastic straws and stuff, we should really be talking about real estate. I mean, it's something like 40% of the US's emissions, but 13% of GDP.
Wow.
So we need to start looking at it, and the amount of stuff, the amount of demolition it's obscene, to be honest. So we've developed a build system that will completely transform that.
So we'll dive into that in a minute. And I saw your face light up when you started talking about this new startup that you're doing. So we'll tap into that. But Lisa, I'm going to kick it over to you and have you lead in with an intro from our guests before we jump back into talking to Naveen a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next guest that we're going to be bringing on is Shelley Kuipers, who is the co-founder and CEO of the 51 Fund here in Calgary. Shelley, why don't you give a bit of an intro into what the company is all about?
Yeah. So the 51 stands for the fact that women make up 51% of the population. We are a venture fund and a financial platform. We say we are investing in an asset class that's overperforming and underinvested in, namely women in venture capital. So less than 2% of venture funding goes to women. And so we are going where the money is not going. We are investing in women-led, co-led companies. And because we make up 51% of the population, we're not a niche market. Women control 80% of consumer spending in North America, especially the US. And when we look at the GDP numbers that's based on consumer spending, women really, power the economy. And so our fund looks for innovation, looks for products and services. We invest in the world we want to live in.
Love it. And one of the businesses that Shelley and her team have started is the non-for-profit arm of the 51 called Movement 51, which I'll let you share more about in a little bit. But one of the most recent cohort winners is Mercedes Korngut, who is a 16-year-old entrepreneur. Mercedes, if you'd like to maybe just share just a quick overview of your company, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Small Bits of Happiness, a happiness wellness company that designs products to help individuals of all ages find more happiness daily. We're currently in dozens of retail stores, and we focus very much on building happiness habits, as well as that parent-to-teen connection. And we also have a digital learning platform with all of our products digitized, and we're in over 100 schools because the schools specifically love the digital aspect, as wellness is becoming increasingly more important within students' lives and schools as well.
Amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
I just want to say wow.
Yeah.
And good for you, Mercedes.
Yeah.
And just off camera is Mercedes' mom, and I'm
yeah,
sure
can we get
I bet
mom on
she's
the camera just
beaming.
for 1 second to give her a shout?
Mercedes is like, dang it, Brian's. Hello. You must be proud. Lot going on in that household in terms of the startup ecosystems.
Yeah.
What a great. We're very busy, and we're definitely very busy in the house. The girls are working hard.
We love it.
Yeah.
Do you ever say, dang it, Mercedes, why couldn't you have just chosen soccer or something, and we could have made life a lot of
Are you kidding? Soccer's way worse. Because then you got to travel all over the country and everything. Mercedes can just do this from the comfort of her own home, right? You get her home more this way. You don't just drive her around and fly her to different areas.
I love it. Well, again, excited to share your story, Mercedes. A lot of people are here, and of course, like your mother, are very proud of you. Great job, and we'll talk to you a little bit more. But right now, Naveen is in the hot seat, my good friend. Naveen, talk a little bit about let's go way back. Can we start there? Because I'm going to get a run up on how
Don't ask me what I was doing when I was 16, because it's nowhere near as impressive as what Mercedes is doing.
So, okay, let's not go that far back. Tell us a little bit about what brought you to Silicon Valley, because you do have a journey of resilience.
Yeah, I mean, so I moved here from Hong Kong. So prior to moving here, I spent 10 years in Hong Kong, and before that was in London and New York. So I started off as a corporate banker for a bank called Lloyd's in the UK. That got me to New York, and then I got into private equity, and I got into private equity pretty young, which was fantastic for me, because it was really kind of a hard knock, tough environment, all the kind of 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks sometimes, but with great people, some of them tougher than others, but it was an environment that really allowed me to develop a broad set of skills. In kind of private equity, you're not kind of great at anything, but you can kind of cover a lot of the bases in business, whether it's assessing a market or assessing operations, or understanding tax structuring or finance and all the rest of it. Growth strategies, obviously, being the most important thing, and how to do a deal. So that was incredible, and that kind of sent me to Hong Kong. And at the time, I've always had, and thankfully my wife too, a bit of wanderlust in me. I've always wanted to live in different places and move around, since I was a kid. So, we moved to Hong Kong, and like I say, 10 years. But the thing about Hong Kong, it's kind of place you live there, but you don't necessarily do a lot of work there. You're always traveling. So that allowed me to, travel all over Asia in particular. And then at the end of that, when I could see kind of the end of the private equity bit, I started to invest in businesses and co-found businesses. I mean, I get called a co-founder, but the people are being nice. It was more like an angel,
So I want to ask you something for our audience. Clearly, your experience shows that you're possibly set up for success. I mean, on the surface, you talk about, in banking, but where did you really learn the foundation? Was it school? Was it a family upbringing? Or was it just, you were thrown in the fire and you kind of had to learn and network and piece together the resources?
Yeah, I think it's a bit, it definitely wasn't school. Well, maybe. I went to business school in France, and that was a big eye-opener for me, because I grew up in a small village in the north of England, where you didn't have a lot of perspective, to be candid. I had a good family around me. My parents were both nurses, so I never had any kind of business type stuff. And then I decided to study kind of politics, philosophy and economics, mostly politics.
Very diverse.
Yeah, I mean, in England, that's quite normal to do a PPE. It's like politics is kind of, how we organise, philosophy, how we think, and economics, how we choose, right? So it's kind of, they get bunched together quite a lot. So I did that, and then I went to business school in France. And that was amazing, because I was with a lot of people who'd been raised to think they were going to take over the world, and then I realised I was, not an imposter in that group, right? I was okay with these guys, and that gave me perspective. So that was I would say that the bit where I thought, wow, maybe I can have an impact or do something or create something.
Yeah. So the early, I guess, insight and foundation was the ability to see things from multiple perspectives. But
also to see that things are, that could be you. It was that right. Kind of that could be you bit. I didn't have that.
I've always seen you someone who's very empathetic, so that makes a lot of sense hearing that.
I've been told that before.
Yeah. I love it. Okay.
So that then, I went into banking, and then it was London, then it was New York. So I was living in New York in my very early 20s, only for about a year, but that was just, a special time. And in terms of discovery and just seeing New York and feeling that energy and, and coming from a little village, I think you always wanted to live in big cities. Mm-hmm. And so I'm coming back to answering your question is how did I end up here? And I always think I wish I had a much better answer than this, but it was fundamentally not wanting to kind of be the man in the arena, to use the Roosevelt quote. I felt like I love private equity. It's the best job in the world. It really is. But you always feel like you kind of, you won the Super Bowl, but you didn't get out on the field. You're in the huddle with the management team, but they're kind of not that bothered that you're there or not, And I just thought, what would it be like to be the person that everyone's relying on, right? It's on you. It's really, really on you, and also build something. So that's when I started kind of exploring my own businesses, and I started with real passion projects at first. I have a business that teaches kids coding. It's a software platform. I have a sports business because I love sport, And then I have a business in my hometown, which is like an engineering business that has vans. And when we were growing up as kids, it's going to sound ridiculous. You always looked at the families that had the man in van businesses, and that was the kind of that looked good. That looked like a good life. So there's a bit of me wanting one of those too, right? So then,
are you talking about like the Sprinter vans?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just a fleet of vans with like your family name on the side. That was kind of
nice,
that was kind of the aspiration. So then when I stumbled across Werqwise, or at least the industry, I just saw a massive need with my co-founder. Just a massive need for this type of product to real estate as a service. But then when you looked at the players within the industry, I still don't think including ourselves, anyone's great at it. There's a lot of hospitality involved, and if I was going to start a hotel, I'd be going, the Four Seasons are good, the Ritz-Carlton's good. There's no one's great at it yet, and I think a big part of that is the amount of compromise people are faced with. If you want your own thing, you still need to go and get your own office. You can't do it within someone else's space, and that's what we're trying to change.
You're trying to really create this environment of home, away from home, community.
Exactly.
And
without compromise.
Without compromise.
Yeah. And I think that's the important. People can come in and say, I want this, I want a boardroom, and I want a couple of little offices, I want a casual area, I want a porchway, and we can just deliver that without waste. So again, going back to your question, we were looking to set this business up, and we did a market search, and it was either the west coast of the US or Eastern Europe. And funnily enough, we'd actually built a similar-ish business in Poland, right, which was a part of a broader business that we haven't got time to talk about now, and sold it. So to Eastern Europe didn't look as mad as it might have looked, but we just wanted to do California.
So you talked a little bit, you'd mentioned there was a point where you were just for a timeline perspective, this was when, and you were saying that you had gotten into angel investing.
Yeah.
And so where in that,
I call it the lost period.
The angel investing. And what did that teach you?
Do you know what it taught me the most? I've always loved entrepreneurs. So if you think of every business I've ever been involved in, banking, private equity, angel investing, co-working, you're surrounded by entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs are amazing people. Mm-hmm. And being closer to them at the earlier stages of business taught me in particular how to move quickly. In private equity, you have a lot of time to take a perfect decision. Your job's to take 2 decisions a year and fundamentally narrow that decision down to the smallest unknown possible with the help of McKinsey and Price Waterhouse and Wilson Sonsini. You've got all these super smart people, and at the end you have a bit that you'll never be able to figure out, and that's your risk decision.
The risk decision.
That's the risk decision, right? Whilst as an entrepreneur, you've got to take 10 decisions a day and get 8 right, and you've got to move at pace and quickly. And sometimes you don't have the time to overanalyze things. And the angel investing really taught me that. Watching how they had to operate. I almost had to de-institutionalize myself, right? I was institutionalized.
A big mind shift.
Big mind shift.
What was some of the biggest shifts that you can look back and say, okay, just choose one, even if you can?
Pace.
The pace.
Moving at pace. Pace, perfectionism, pace and perfectionism.
And looking back on yourself now with pace and perfectionism, how would you coach that individual moving forward?
I would definitely would have advised him to, spend less time overanalyzing and overthinking. Yeah.
So
you definitely, we'd be doing a deal in a negotiation, and I'd be, on the sofa at home and stewing over the same thing. How do I get that edge? How do I get that edge? And you realise that maybe it's partly age as well as experience. You kind of go, my first answer is broadly quite good, and then you kind of can refine on that. But there's no point in devoting your whole evening to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On trying to make that answer better, because you're probably not going to move it forward that much more. You're better off working on something else.
So let go of being perfect, be a little messy,
Exactly.
and then reiterate it.
Reiterate. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Okay, so let's fast forward now into Werqwise. You identified a few locations here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
What were some of your first steps to launching what is a great workspace, by the way?
It's funny, really. If you, given what I know now, and I think this is also an important lesson, given what I know now, if you told me that two idiots in Hong Kong could come over to San Francisco and take 45,000 square feet, as we did, in downtown SF, and this was in 2017, so this was boom real estate period, and obviously things have changed, I'd think you were crazy. So it's fascinating to look back on it, and a big part of it was how we were going to be different. How are you going to differentiate yourselves? And it was always going to be two things: the hospitality and the flexibility. So all the people who work for us come from top-end hospitality backgrounds. They've got high empathy. They want to be hosts, right? They want to look after you. And as a hospitality business, it's the best business on the planet, because you have people kind of 3 or 4 days a week from 8 till 6 or 9 till 6, right? What other hospitality business gets such touch time with its customers, right? But then the key thing was to develop the technology. And, so our considerations, obviously when you're looking at a location, there's certain things like transport, footfall. Is it somewhere people want to be after work? Is the correlation, which I can't fully explain, but it's almost perfect in building these locations.
Now, were you doing studies, or was this kind of your gut telling you what would I need?
But I'd call it we're doing due diligence, right? So there's an element of eyeballing stuff, but it's still diligence, and we'd still check it, and we'd test assumptions and stuff like that. And that's where the private equity skill set really comes into play, because that's what you used to do.
You have that research at your fingertips, or you know where to go.
You know where to go, but you know how to analyze it. You know how to kind of eliminate biases and kind of sniff out the bits that maybe you just want to be true. I always say that in business. I said, what do you want to be true, and what do you need to be true? When you're looking at these types of things.
So 2017, fast forward, probably all the headaches of getting the location converted to what you need.
Building it was tough. I mean, we've built, me and my business partner I remember him once saying to me, look, Tokyo, where we built, has seismic regulations that are really tough, and Philippines has labor pool problems, and Vietnam has bureaucracy. San Francisco has them all. It's like a full bingo set. So building in San Francisco is tough. And we had to learn that the hard way. But we got it done in 4 months. We opened in April 2018, and it was full by the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
And very
That's
profitable.
Were you, and so then you had the second location. How soon after that?
That was a bit later. So then 2019, the goal was to deliver the metrics. So I've got a full year of operation. It looks as well as it could have looked. And we were talking big round, and then another location. And then COVID happened, right? So that was a black swan event. It just completely took the wind out of everything. But the silver lining was, I thought we'd be sat here with many more locations now. 5, 6 years after opening, we're getting up to 6 years now. But our technology would be behind where it is. But we have less locations, but the technology's on a different level to where we thought it would be, and now it's been spun out effectively. So we raise money for it separately, and that business can address, like I say, just the environmental issues in construction and some of the other issues too.
Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
I've heard you mention a couple of times now the technology, but I'm not clued into what the technology is.
Dive into that, because you love that.
So let me, I'll tell you a very quick story. So if you wanted to get a floor today, you're going to go and get an office floor today. You want to find your own office. You have to go and you walk around this empty shell, which I did this morning, by the way. You walk out this empty shell and you have to visualize what you want, right? You want a boardroom. I want a couple of offices here. I want meeting rooms and casual areas and whatever else, breakout places. And you have to visualize it. You then go home, you get the design. The design's always wrong because something gets lost in translation. You to and fro with the designer, right? You eventually come to your decision, but it has to be your final decision. So there's decision anxiety, decision paralysis, because to change it involves money, contractors, demolition, right? You eventually then get it, and it takes 3 months to build. The technology we're building is you can walk around the floor with a tablet. You can speak to it, it'll design it for you. You have the design when you walk out. You don't care if it's your final answer, because changing it costs no money, no contractors, no demolition, no construction waste. So you're relaxed about the answer. You know, you're future-proof. You can change it easily and simply, 24 hours, 48 hours. And then to build it, you know, assuming we have like the kind of interior system in, you know, you can build it in a week. So it takes what is a very antiquated industry. I mean, even like landlord and tenant, it's like feudal language. I mean, it's being phased out now, but it's like feudal language.
Yeah.
And turn it into something that's more of a consumer product. Why shouldn't you be able to get what you want when you want tomorrow in real estate? Why is it different to anything else, right?
Brian, that's your space. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and every tenant who occupies that space, and leases are maybe 3 or 5 years, right?
Exactly.
So every 3 to 5 years, you might have turnover, and a new tenant's going to want to come in and redesign the whole place.
Right.
Are you finding that it's tenants or landlords who are employing this technology more?
We're getting interest from both. So we're in the process of, we deployed it in San Mateo in our space, and San Mateo is 97% full with a waiting list. So I think we proved that out. We're now just prototyping right now the new iteration, which is easier to build and looks a lot nicer. We didn't get the aesthetics quite right on the first one. We learned a lot of stuff around noise transfer. So at the moment, most of my conversations are with real estate developers, but I call them next gen developers, like not the ones with their hands over their ears going, it'll go back to the way it was, you know. It's the ones who are going, do you know, I'm investing, I'm buying a building in San Francisco in the Bay, and I'm going to do something special. And what this does, it makes the economics pencil again, because the problem is with what you just said, it doesn't pencil. Even the banks can't make sense of it, right? Because you used to get a 7-year bond and you'd take your loan against that, or a 10-year bond from the tenant, you take your loan against that. With this, you put you pay it once, you know, you put the TIs in once, but then you can just change it for the existing tenant so they're happier, or for a new tenant.
It's great.
Well,
That's super. I mean, who is doing this now? Is this a first of its kind, or
there's definitely like demountable systems that exist and have done for a long time. Two of the biggest are from Canada. One's in I think they both might be in Calgary, actually, funnily enough. But they're more like demountable.
Shelley's like, they're in my portfolio. Let's get this guy off the air. No, I'm just kidding.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah. So they're both, you know, and there's others as well, you know, but they're more like demountable. They're not flexible. We designed it from a user perspective. We designed it. Most of them are designed from a build perspective. How do I make it easier to build? So it's kind of modular technology, right? While for us as a co-working space, we were like, how do we give people what they want? You know, and also how do we make our use of space more efficient? You know. Because in the co-working business, you know, in the flexible workspace business, you have so many offices. I have like this many 5-person offices, this many 7-person, this many 10-person, and you can't change that, whilst we can, right? So that really opens up your inventory, if you like, as well. So we came at it from a user perspective.
So where do you see yourself, and this is going to be my last question before you pivot to Shelley.
Yeah.
Where do you see this technology in 6 months, 18 months, with AI growing so rapidly? Is there going to be some reiterations, or do you think, no, this is needed now and we need it for a while?
We're already looking at kind of Gen AI design. So, you know, when I talk about walking with a tablet, you know, that is essentially voice to image. So we've built our own, you know, design software to design it within our universe, right? And there's no reason the mouse clicks can't be done by an AI that can just take your voice and turn it into a design, right? And optimize the design, do better than you, know, optimize it. What is the optimal? I've just hired 50 people. What's the optimal way to redesign the floor, right? So AI comes into it there for sure. And at the back end, robotics. So, you know, the construction industry generally has an issue. No one's going into the trades like they used to. COVID is a big issue. So we don't have enough people to build the way we want to build and build as much as we want to build. So we have to solve that, and robotics can play a real part in helping people in the trades become more productive, right? And spend more time on the stuff that, you know, robots can't do. So
where you're going with this and the potential to iterate, scale is it's laid out before you. It sounds like.
I mean, it's not as easy as that. I mean, I have a general direction to where the ship is sailing, but I'm sure there's going to be some trade winds and
I know Brian and I could geek out with you on this for a while, but.
No, I'm keen to hear what.
Yeah, let's bring in Shelley right now. Shelley, once again, good to have you on the show. Lisa, I'm gonna hand it off to you to kind of lead this conversation because, again, you've known Shelley for a while. You've worked together. Go ahead and let's bring her into this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to have Shelley on. I've known you, Shelley, for probably a couple of years. We met a couple of years ago. And I remember when we first met, Shelley just taking me through her background. It was amazing. Just hearing about your own entrepreneurial stories, all of the businesses that you've, grown and supported over the years. So why don't you just give our audience, a bit of an overview of your story?
Could she hear you?
Sounds great, Lisa. And I hope my connection is working well from my location. But yeah, my background is different. I had an opportunity to get into a technology company as a young person. And watch 3 founders build a company to a successful exit. And then from that point forward, I was like, I think I can be a founder or a co-founder as well. So I embarked on a journey of becoming a co-founder or founder. I've been doing that since '99. So I've got the disease of entrepreneurship, running through my blood. I can't give it up. I am seriously unemployable. As a founder, I found it very challenging to raise capital. I think it's a bunch of different reasons. I don't put that on the industry necessarily. I put that on, myself as a founder. I probably wasn't ready for it. But I saw that there was this huge capacity gap in venture, both women as partners in investing and women as founders being invested in. It was just a contrast. So when I went out to raise money as a founder, it was just rooms and rooms and rooms of men. I love men. I've been collaborating with men my whole career. But there were no women investors. And then, tables turned. I made my first early stage investment in 2002. Again, I was like, where are all of the women as investors? We were nowhere to be found. And so I always had this idea with my friend, Alice Reimer, definitely, partner in crime. And, we dreamed about doing the 51 one day. And finally, in 2018, she introduced me to Judy Fairburn, and the 3 of us launched the 51 in 2019. I would say my background and experience, which has led me to this, has been very different. I grew up in the North, pretty simple living, actually. My mom was part of, we could call it organized religion, but I'd say it was probably a cult. And so I, kind of grew up with this rebellious streak, right? I was never happy with status quo. I was always in trouble at school. I had this thing inside of me that, just wanted to do things differently. And I didn't take, a no or a yes for granted. I just always questioned it. So the 51 was really born, like I said at the beginning of the show, on a premise of, women, we control consumer spending. We will control the wealth in Canada and in the US by 2030. I don't know if everyone is aware of the statistics, but 65% of North America's wealth will be in the hands of women by 2030. And there's many different reasons for that. Women are graduating at a higher rate from post-secondary. And so we look at women as an asset class. We say women are building things that we want to invest in. And then on the other side of that equation, we have women who want to become LPs or partners in funds. And so we see ourselves as a platform for women as founders, women as LPs, women as partners in venture funds. We are not doing this because it's a DEI exercise or an ESG exercise. We are truly looking for opportunities for women to be powerful with the wealth that they create, either on the cap table or through their invested capital.
I love it. Lisa, I've got to ask Shelley something she said before. So Shelley, you had mentioned that, and fundraising was hard, or early in your career, you realized that, and it's still hard for a lot of founders. What were some of the big obstacles that you saw early in your career that you see now, and with now what your 25 years of wisdom? Is that, I'm not a math.
I think 2002 was the first early stage.
I'm not a math major.
So
I don't know.
I'm not. Yeah.
Let me hold on. Let me do my fingers. Let me do my fingers. 20 years of experience. What have you seen to be the best ways to overcome those hurdles?
That's a big question. I think, I think entrepreneurs often think that they can go out to the market and they could raise money. They are investable. And I think, the journey as a founder is determining how to become investable. And so, it's not there's no obligation by that market to invest in you. And so everything from what you're building, who you are, how ready you are as an investment, both as a founder and as a business, it's on you to do that work. And so, again, if I look back on myself, I don't want to use the word naive, but I think I was a bit naive. I thought, I built a company, I would receive funding. And, if I look back on that, I can go, okay, no, the investment market asked me really good questions and I didn't necessarily have answers for them. Venture is a very specific asset class. It needs to be massively scalable. It needs to rely on tech to be scalable, not on humans. It needs to be a massive market. Fund managers are betting on you as a founder, right? I was young. And I just think the whole financial acumen is another huge part of it. I think, that's not my background. I'm not a financial person. I've become a financial person because of the expertise that I've grown over time. And I think really becoming, financially astute as a founder is super important. You got to know your numbers. Don't outsource that to your CFO or to your VP of finance. Get in there, build the spreadsheet with them. Learn all the levers that you have in your business to create value. So I think if I fast forward today, your question, I think, yes, the system has a bias. There's no question. We say at the 51, you invest in what looks like you. Fine. So the system is investing in what looks like them. Cool.
Interesting.
That's why what we're trying to do is say, no, let's get LPs that are different. So we're targeting women, but I will tell you the dirty secret that men write us the biggest. Then we have the capital allocation decision framework.
Shelley, say that again. You cut out. You said something. Shelley. Say that again.
Sorry.
You said the biggest secret is,
and it cut out.
You cut out.
Your internet cut out there for a second, Shelley.
Right when you said it was the biggest secret.
Okay. The biggest secret, yeah. Paused.
The biggest secret is that the biggest secret with our funds is that the men still write us the biggest checks. So we target women as LPs, and we target everyone. We say, the 51 is built by women for everyone. But if we approach a woman for a check versus a man, I will just use those two genders for this conversation. The women will painstakingly review the opportunity over and over again. And a man will go, great, I'll write you a check. How much do you want? And so, that's part of the capacity building that we are doing as a platform and as a fund. So again, we're targeting women as LPs, changing the face of capital. We've got an all-women team doing the capital allocation decisions. So that means that we are investing with our bias, and then we're investing in women-led, co-led companies. So we've gone back into the system to change it. And we think that that's how the stats will change.
Shelley,
that change by
Shelley. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask a question just about what you just said about kind of the most you get more or bigger checks from the male LPs and the female LPs. Do you think that's the female LPs have to justify that they're investing in a fund that targets females, so that, you know, when they go to their investment committee or whatever, they just feel like they're, you know, almost should be recused from it in a way that I wouldn't be if I was going to my investment committee to invest in an all men run fund.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair statement. So we it's actually a very interesting question. So we've had, you know, on the individual credit investor side, we're about 90% women's capital. That capital has been very slow to get in the door. But if we move over to family offices, family foundations, and institutionals, it becomes easier to get that capital off the sidelines and into our funds.
Yeah.
So it's been, you know, it's been a lesson for us. I just think, you know, women as individual accredited investors investing in a venture fund, they take the opportunity seriously, and they have to check everything off before they write the check. Where I think, you know, a lot of men, and I've been surrounded by male investors for years, there's a very strong, you know, instinct through their investment decisions. And I think women are still trying to develop that muscle and that instinct in this asset class.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. This again is a great topic, Naveen. Great question. For the sake of radio, we got to take a quick little break. So with that being said, this is Silicon Valley Impact on Pirate Cat Radio. We will be back in a flash. All right. Okay. We're back again with Naveen, Shelley, and Mercedes. Lisa, now during the break, you made an interesting point. I'm going to toss the mic to you at this point to ask Shelley what we were discussing during the break.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some intel already on Shelley, so these are unfair questions for her. But what I know is, you know, Shelley and her founders have really taken, you know, many of the challenges that they faced as entrepreneurs and have created incredible educational opportunities for both investors into the 51 and in addition to a non-for-profit. So Shelley, maybe just tell our audience a little bit more about the 51. How can they learn more about, you know, the fund itself? And what was your why in starting Movement 51? And tell us more about that organization.
Yeah. I'll keep track of your questions there, Lisa. Thank you. We started Movement 51 for, you know, kind of the exact reasons I was just talking about. We truly, as co-founders, took it for granted when we launched the 51 in 2019 that women would just write us checks. You know, we saw men writing checks into venture funds, and, you know, we're part of that community. And we started to activate our own community, and we noted that there just wasn't the same level of, and I'm not going to use the word confident because I think women are confident, but maybe there was some level of, you know, they weren't courageous enough to write a check into this asset class. And so when we were out fundraising, we noted that we were doing this capacity building side by side with the fundraising. And as a venture fund, that was not sustainable, right? We had to offload that capacity building into another organization. So we created a not-for-profit called Movement 51, and the capacity building and the programming and the education lives there. You know, once you graduate as an investor from our investor lab, yes, you might want to write a check into our fund or any other fund. We actually track our graduates writing checks into this asset class period. It could be as an angel, as an LP, it could be in our fund, it could be other funds. So, you know, we're not discriminate about that capacity building. So that was one reason. And then the other reason was we saw the same thing on the founder side, especially in the area of, you know, financials, you know, being financially astute, understanding your financial model, understanding, you know, the aspect of going out and raising money. You have to have financial skills to do that. You should have a partner that helps you do that. So again, we saw in the founder market that there was a lack of, let's say, financial acumen and fundraising acumen inside of the founder community. And again, you know, we weren't discouraged by that, but we said, let's do something about it. Let's bring another solution to the market. So we launched our founder lab side by side with our investor lab, with the goal that graduating from the investor lab, you should be, investor ready. And then, when you graduate from the founder lab, you should be investment ready.
Oh, I love that.
And we actually track, confidence and courage and other aspects kind of like before and after the program. So we really try to be data driven about, the change that we're driving.
Nice. And so what are some of the main takeaways that those who come through your program are learning? And so you're creating a fundable founder fit. You're creating that as well as informed investors. What would you say is your secret sauce? Because again, you're providing all these resources, all this education, and then there's this flywheel back into the fund. Great idea, love it. But what is that one secret sauce that your funders and your founders walk away with?
Well, I'm going to let Mercedes speak to the founders because she just graduated from the lab and I want to hear it from her. But what I would say is we've created a place for people to be part of a community. So they're peers, right? So I could come in and I could have never written a check before. I could come in and maybe, I've been an angel for some time and now I'm looking at becoming an LP in a fund. Likewise on the founder side. So what we do in our programming, and I want to hear what Mercedes has to say, is the whole development of the program is through, seeing what you can be. So it's not theoretical in any way. Like we put successful founders in front of our founders that are in our founder lab so that they have role models around what's possible. The same thing on the investor side is, self-actualization and being inside of a community that enables that self-actualization, I really believe is, what makes us different.
With so many silos in Silicon Valley, I love that you're addressing that because that can't be understated. And I think that's a perfect time to pivot towards Mercedes. Now, Mercedes, I want to ask you, and again, Shelley, I know you're up against it and we're watching the clock. So I really appreciate your insight and really appreciate what you're doing at the Founders Lab. 51, did I say it right?
Yep.
51. Love what you're doing. So if you need to log off, go ahead and go. But Mercedes, what got you into this cohort? And again, once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yes. So just like Shelley said, I just graduated the Movement 51 Founder Lab, and it was an incredible experience. I think that there was so many different parts to the program. Like you said, the community is amazing, like being surrounded by previous graduates of the program, being surrounded by like-minded founders who are also super ambitious and super, devoted to helping others and making an impact was absolutely so inspiring and self-actualizing in the fact that I learned that I love entrepreneurship and I meant to be an entrepreneur and this is what I'm good at and what I love to do, as well as it provided tangible tools and advice such as financial knowledge, understanding the basics, as well as more in-depth of different terminology, everything the setup of a startup in terms of how it should be financially to be ready for investment. So really how to pivot your startup so that it's as investable as possible. As well as how to know if you're ready for investment, how to know how to approach investors, as well as just, I think all of those skills together, all of those different aspects together, the confidence, the greater knowledge, the community, and seeing other people who've gone through the program and who've been in your shoes before get investment and grow their businesses really helps you and helps me understand kind of where my startup is at and understand where I could take it next.
Yeah. So Mercedes, how did you catch wind of this program? What had you wanting to start your own business? Let's go back before the business even became a business and before you got in the program. How did you just jump into this? Did you grow up in a family of entrepreneurs? Was there someone, who was influential? Did you see something on Shark Tank? I don't know. How did it all begin for you?
Yeah, so my sister, who's my co-founder, and I have always been we've always wanted to make an impact, and we've always
and for our audience, Mercedes, real quick, for our audience, tell us how old you and your sister are.
Yeah, so my sister is 14 right now and I'm 16. And we've always been super close and wanted to have different projects that we're working on to make an impact. So when we were younger, we would run fundraisers in our schools and run fundraisers on our own. And we would always be trying to help the community out. So we started Small Bits of Happiness during the pandemic because we noticed ourselves feeling quite sad and stressed, as well as our peers and our friends as teenagers. It's hard enough between hormones and all the different changes and responsibilities, and you add on a pandemic and the stressors of climate change and conflict and wars. It makes it a really challenging time to grow up in. And so that's when we started to focus on, hey, how can I feel happier? And realizing that watching the sunrise or the sunset, going for a walk, reading some of a good book, those are all small things that you can do daily and control that bring you happiness.
So I want to make sure I'm doing my math correct. You said you started during the pandemic. So your sister was 10 and you were 12. Is that what I'm hearing?
She was 11 and I was 13.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to know how come you're getting the screen time here and your sister's nowhere to be seen? Where's your sister?
Where's your sister?
I think she was too young.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Canada rules. Okay. So 11 and 13. Okay. I need to go home and have a conversation with my daughter. She's 8 to get ready. Okay.
Yeah. Tell her she's just completely failed. It's too late.
She's got to, get it together. All right. So you've seen that there was a issue with happiness during the pandemic. You started putting together these ideas. The business started to come together. Tell us kind of what your mindset was at that time and what was next.
For us, we have, I think, learned a lot along the way. So we started off trying just to reach as many teenagers as possible. And so we started by posting advice for teenagers on how to find happiness, quotes, inspirations on social media, because we figured that's where it's easiest to reach teens. And then we began to recognize, well, maybe it's not even the teens who we want to reach directly. It's their parents, it's their moms who want to connect with their kids. They want to connect with their teenagers, but they don't exactly know how or have the tools to do so. So we began, I built a website, we designed a number of products, all based in, the science behind happiness to help build happiness habits, connect parents with their kids and their teenagers. And then, as I said in the beginning of the interview and the episode, we also have launched a digital platform because teachers and especially school boards and principals and curriculums have become very much so interested in incorporating more wellness into their students' lives, because students spend so much time in school. By the time we graduate high school, we spend roughly 15,000 hours in a classroom, and we're surrounded by, for most of our waking hours, especially during the school year, our teachers, our peers, and our friends.
So Mercedes, real quick, I know you're on a roll. I love your passion. I was just like, wait, I got a question. So you cracked the code, and I really want to point this out for a lot of other social media, because that's where you began. You started to push out your business on social media, and you cracked the code on engagement with a problem. You brought a solution. Did you figure out how to monetize this, or were you just doing a feel-good project, which is great, that then eventually grew into the business? Or did you figure out early that, okay, we need to figure out how to monetize, make money with this early on? And then how did you do that, or what is your plan to do that moving forward?
Yeah, so primarily most of our revenue comes from our products. So our social media, we provide and we always have provided on there free happiness content, because we want to make an impact and we want to help others find that happiness and just be a positive light in an often negative environment of social media. Mm-hmm. So ever since we started on social media, it's always been very much about, just spreading that happiness through there and not focusing as much on the profits through social media.
Mm-hmm. Brian, go ahead.
I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but just as an example, are you able to give us your number one tip for becoming more happy or achieving happiness or moving towards happiness?
Absolutely. I mean, it's different for different people, but from my experiences and my knowledge, for me personally, one of the top things to do to feel happier is going outside. And I know that I think this is something that a lot of people talk about, but really like the power that comes with going outside, even if it's like sitting on a patio, in your backyard, going for a little walk around the block, it is so impactful being in the sun, taking a break from the screen or from the work. It just kind of resets your mind. And even if you can't go outside, like kind of opening the window, maybe going and, trying to get some more natural sunlight into your environment and into your space is so important. And the second thing for me to feeling happier is socialization. Because there's so much research to how spending time with other people, especially people who make us feel good and who we enjoy being with, brings us happiness. So I'd say that even if you can combine those two together, going for a walk with someone that you like, your friend or your family member, that's a really good way to feel happy. So those are my top 2 tips.
What would you tell an entrepreneur who could, in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of people on the sidelines. I mean, they have ideas, but they're not doing anything to get going. I mean, here you are, first time founder, never mind 16 years old. I mean, I think if you could even look past that, I mean, remarkable. What advice would you give to somebody who's sitting on the sideline with an idea in order to take that first step?
Absolutely. For me, I'd say my biggest tip is just do it. I think that there's always going to be some sort of, obstacle or barrier in your way, whether it's graduating or meeting the right co-founder or hitting a certain milestone in your life. But I think that if we don't, kind of take that first step, it's never going to happen. And so you kind of just have to take the risk and accept the fact that you're not going to know everything right away. And that's kind of the fun of it. So you kind of just have to take that first step and look for resources, look for help. And I think that in our day and age, even social media or podcasts or radio shows can offer so much knowledge that you can really learn a ton really quickly.
So you were...
That very much echoes Naveen's sentiments earlier about perfectionism, I think, as well.
Oh, good tie-in, Lisa. That is absolutely right. So Mercedes, a lot of people who've been on this show, a lot of people I meet in Silicon Valley, they talk a lot about imposter syndrome. Have you heard that term before? So imposter syndrome is, do I belong? Should I in this space? Should I be doing this? It's all these self-doubts, and they call it the imposter syndrome. When you were going through this cohort and you're engaging with all these other entrepreneurs, did you ever come across within yourself the imposter syndrome? And if you did, and you may be like, heck no, I just went for it and I was having fun. And if you did, what would be some insights in order to overcome that?
For sure. For me, I honestly was very fortunate because my cohort was super welcoming to me. So I felt like I very much fit in and was surrounded by like-minded people. And I really enjoyed that. And for overcoming imposter syndrome, I would say one of my biggest pieces of advice that I tell myself whenever I start to feel a bit of self-doubt is like, you've earned this, like you've earned the opportunity, you've been accepted. Like it doesn't matter. Sometimes we can spiral in our thoughts, but thoughts are not facts. And you have to kind of accept that, yes, I deserve to be here and I'm worthy of being here. And whatever I don't know, I can learn.
Dang, that's good. Okay. I want to put that on a loop later on on the show. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I'm hearing language of I'm hearing psychological language. Mercedes, have you studied psychology at this point? Are you on a track to be in the psychological space? I mean, we're talking to you as an entrepreneur, but you seem to have a pretty good command of this language of happiness. Where did you get all that from?
Yeah, I mean, I have not studied psychology very in a university academic aspect, but my sister and I host a podcast, Hack Your Happiness. And
I'm sorry, say the name of the podcast again.
Hack Your Happiness.
Okay, thank you.
So on there, we've interviewed a lot of top psychologists along with Oscar winners and Olympic athletes and beyond. And so when I interview, and my sister and I interview those psychologists, they share a lot of their insights and knowledge. And so that has helped me a lot gain knowledge, as well as I've put in so much research reading like studies and books and articles as well.
And you've incorporated a lot of that knowledge into your products as well, Mercedes. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So you mentioned your podcast. Where can people find your podcast? Is it on, where can they find it?
Yeah, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as on YouTube.
Nice. And how can people connect with you? Of course, if it's okay with Mom, in order to learn more on how to get their 16 and 14-year-olds into business, what's the best? Can they find you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mercedes Korngut on LinkedIn, as well as our website, smallbitsofhappiness.com is always a great place to find us as well.
Nice. Well,
I just want to repeat that, smallbitsofhappiness.com.
Small bits of happiness.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Well, Mercedes, thank you so much for being on the show. Lisa, did you want to wrap up? Say one more thing?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Mercedes, when I witnessed her pitch at the demo event that wrapped up the Founders Lab last week, you were phenomenal and really stood out. So we're so grateful to have you on today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. And Naveen, what's the best way people can connect with you?
Oh yeah, LinkedIn's super easy.
Super
It's
easy.
Werqwise.com or Naveen Khugputh on LinkedIn.
Nice. And I know we have a few more minutes to go. I wanted you to finish up the thought. Well, first of all, what you think of the small business?
One more question for Mercedes, if we can open that
ask
back up really
Mercedes
quick.
the question, and I want to bring it back to Naveen.
Yeah, and you did ask it, Brian, but I think it was among a few other questions. Where did you get your entrepreneurial bug from? Who has really inspired you?
Absolutely. My dad, ever since I was little, we would watch as a whole family, like business shows and movies together, and he would read business books and like share fun insights or facts from those books. And so I think I was always very interested in like building something, making an impact and growing and helping other people through something I've built.
Amazing. So they've been helping you out as well, I assume?
Yeah, my parents are super supportive, which I'm very fortunate of.
Yeah. And what advice would you have for other aspiring entrepreneurs your age?
Absolutely. Aside from the just do it, I would say be relentless and like search for opportunities. They're not just going to show up. You have to look for them, Google it, talk to people, reach out to people. Like I think so many teenagers underestimate that they have a voice. And like if you email your favorite, your favorite author, they might write back and they might be willing to, talk to you or answer some of your questions, or same with your favorite, top psychologist. Like look for opportunities and look for ways to learn, because there's so many amazing resources out there.
Nice. Thank you,
Love that.
Mercedes. That was great.
For anyone.
And to wrap up, Naveen, I want to give you one more question.
Okay,
I know we
sure.
were going to talk about your, we got to go. Okay, we're out of time. In fact, this is the segue to have you coming back. Lisa, Mercedes, I want to thank you both for being here today. Naveen, I have so many more questions for you. You have
thank you
such
for having me. But I've got to say, it's an absolute pleasure to listen to Mercedes. I mean, so much of what she said there, we incorporate into our workplace environments. Yeah. So it was really cool to hear it come from her.
Okay, and Werqwise is in San Mateo.
San Mateo and San Francisco.
In San Francisco. If you're looking for space, well, you guys are packed up right now.
It's kind of full. San Francisco's got a bit of space.
Okay, but great event space. But there's a lot of events there. Naveen, thank you for joining us. Brian Bernasconi, you're an awesome engineer. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Silicon Valley Impact. You can join us here every Tuesday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Make sure to follow us on Silicon Valley Impact on Instagram, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Brian Sparks. We'll see you all next week.